Hello and welcome along to the Property Academy podcast. I'm your host, Ed McKnight.
And I'm Andrew Nicol.
And today on the show, it is Data Day. We're talking about the new Real Estate Institute of New Zealand data that has just been released this morning. By the time this episode is released, it'll be yesterday. And of course, every month on the 15th day, Ryan's release what happened in the property market over the last month. So Andrew and I have in front of us the figures for June 2020. And of course, if you hearken back to the last episode, we talked about how the data was relatively inconclusive because the number of properties fell off a cliff, but we didn't know what that meant for property prices. And so now that we're as you'll find out, volumes are rebounding, they're increasing, not to the same level they used to be, but they are increasing. So we have more certainty about what the data is telling us. Now, Andrew, take us through the headline figures. What's jumping out at you in terms of national house price and how does it compare with last month and the same month last year?
Okay, well, before we jump onto price, I just want to talk about one of the things that stands out most to me, and that's the number of properties which have sold, having decreased across the nation by 46.6% last year. So from 7,477 properties for the month down to 3,990. And a big part of that was that while we were in alert level 3, real estate agents were very restricted as to what they could do with open homes. So you could typically only take 2 couples through a property at maximum per day. So it made it really challenging for them to actually advertise properties to their fullest and then, of course, get offers. So as a result, the number of sales are massively down, almost by half. And so, of course, if we look actually down by regions as well, the hardest hit Tasman down by 62.5%, Otago down by 56.2%, Southland by 54.8%, and Marlborough by 54.3%. So some major drops there for volume, and Auckland was down by 44.5%. The days to sell, it's taking a lot longer to sell at the moment as well. So, and again, this is related to the fact that it's much harder to get a deal done on a property at the moment, or it was. Nationally, it was down. It was 58 days to sell, median days to sell 58, which is 17 days more than last year, the same month last year. New Zealand, excluding Auckland, was 57, which is 19 days more, and Auckland was 61, which is 16 days more. And then in terms of prices, so median prices year on year, so nationally, 620. So we're up from 580 last year. So we're up 6.9% based on a year-on-year figure. New Zealand, excluding Auckland, we're up 9.4% from 489 to 535, and Auckland as well is up 7.1%, up from 850 to 910.
Now you might wonder as well, how does that compare month on month? Because if you recall, last month the median house price in New Zealand for April was $680,000. Now that was up 15K on the month before. And you would have recalled that I tried to temper your expectations to say, hey, your house price probably didn't increase by 15K because last month there were just lots and lots of properties sold in Auckland, which tend to be more expensive. And if more properties are sold in Auckland, that's going to drag the median house price up. Now, I'm kind of quite happy with this data because it proves my point. The median house price month on month has decreased by $60,000. So compared to last month, the median house price in New Zealand fell 8.8%. But I don't want you to worry because I told you not to worry when it increased and you shouldn't get too comfortable and you shouldn't be too worried about this because while the median house price decreased 8.8%, everywhere except Auckland, the median house price increased by 3.1%, and in Auckland, it only decreased by 1.6%. So we haven't seen house prices in each region change that much month on month. But what we did see is the national price decrease. Now that just happens to be because this month there weren't as many properties that were sold in Auckland. It's gone back to the way it used to be, or the natural distribution of the number of properties sold in Auckland versus everywhere else. Now, just to give you the data behind that, the volume sold month on month, Auckland's up 100% roughly, based off up from last month. Double the number of properties were sold in Auckland, but everywhere else you see volume is up 255%, so 3.5 times more. So we've seen more houses sold everywhere else in the regions. Now, that affects, again, the national median price, but it doesn't affect the price of your property wherever you happen to live. That's why we've got to dig in a bit deeper. And so I'm really comfortable as an economist and as somebody dealing in the property investment space to say, hey, look, the national median house price decreased by 60K, but don't worry, because it doesn't actually matter, which is really interesting within that case. Now, the next thing I just want to talk about is the big winners and losers over the last month, and talk about the specific regions that increased in value the fastest and the ones that decreased the fastest. And again, actually, this proves the point that I was talking about, which is that it's all about volume. It's all about the number of properties and the sort of properties that sold within that given month. If you're comparing month on month, if you're just comparing one month to the next. So, Andrew, I won't make you do a pop quiz in order to figure out which region increased the fastest, but tell me, what sort of region do you think would have increased the fastest month on month? Which is the region or district, I should say, is going to have the biggest increase?
Month on month.
What sort of region?
I don't know what you mean by what sort of region.
Okay, the answer is one that's really small and doesn't have a lot of sales.
Right.
The reason is, again, that if you're in a small region, you can have a lot of really big houses selling that are going to be more expensive, and that's going to bring the median house price up, especially if you don't have a lot sold.
So which one was it?
It was Buller District, which is down on the west coast. And let me just flick to the correct page so I can tell you exactly what the figures were. But in Buller, the median house price was up about 75.4%. So it increased by 3/4. But again, people in Buller don't necessarily get too excited, because it's about the distribution. Because there, the median house price increased from April, which was $87,500, and that increased to $153,500. So massive increase there. Doesn't mean that values are appreciating there. Similarly, and actually I should just tell you what the volume sold was. This month there were seven properties sold in Buller District. And sorry, I said before that this data is for June. It's actually for May, sorry. It was released on June. I misread the title. The district that had the fastest decreasing house prices month on month was Rangitikei, which is in the Manawatu district. And again, just let me flick to the page, because house prices there were down, or the median house price was down 22.3%, and the number of properties sold in that region was 11. So the reason I'm saying this is that because volumes are so low, and I know I kind of keep banging on about this point, but it's because it's so important in terms of how you understand this data. And when you see people posting about this on Facebook, you can actually say, well, let me look a little bit further into the volume so you can be a really informed consumer. When you have low volumes like that, if a few properties that are expensive or very, very cheap happen to be sold, that can pull around the median house price quite significantly, even though values and the value of most properties didn't change all that much. They would have been a little bit up, or they would have been a little bit down. But that's what's really important to note as well. Now, Andrew, just walk us through the headline regions and talk to us about the regions that have done the best and that have done the worst year on year, so where we have a little more faith within them.
Okay, so the interesting ones, which are the new records, Waikato is up 9.5% to a new record of 598,000. Taranaki, where our very own Ed is from, up 16.7% to 426,000. So he'll be pretty excited about that, because he's always trying to sell it. Tasman up to 701,800, which is up 19.9%, almost 20%. On the flip side, Gisborne is the only one which is down 5.7%, down to 415, 5.7%. Some other standouts which were interesting to me. Wellington's still going pretty strong, 9.3% increase to 677,510. And again, it's a supply issue there. Hawke's Bay is up 16%. West Coast up 4.8%. But to be honest, that's all over the place. So that's 220, 4.8% increase. Southland up 22.8% to 345. Anything else that stands out greatly? No, that's probably the bulk of it. Anything else stand out to you there, Ed?
I was just looking at the Taranaki figures and was just so proud of my very own new Plymouth, which is now up to $480,000, up quite significantly since the previous year, up about $35,000. So
maybe it's a result of this podcast that it's been going up year on year, Ed.
Maybe it's because I left and so more people want to move there as well. Hey, let's wrap it up there, but please don't forget to rate, review and subscribe to the show. It really does help us get the message out to more people. And also, if you want to learn more about property with Andrew and I, why not check out our No Money Worries email course? This is where we've put together our top 9 lessons on property investment. Andrew emails those out to you. And you've even got a little bit of homework so that you can think through how you've been investing in the past and how that might change in the future, which is really interesting. And of course, don't forget, because in 30 days, or 31 days, we're going to be back with another data day to talk about the new RINES update when they're released on the 15th of July. Thanks for listening to the Property Academy podcast. I'm your host, Ed McKnight.
And I'm Andrew Nicol.
And we're going to be back again tomorrow with even more daily strategies, tactics and insights to help you get the most out of the New Zealand property market. Until next time.